Cathfáilte Road, Joe. You're very welcome to the Institute of Technology this evening.
Yeah.
This is the second in our National Forum series called Digital Pathways into Learning Languages. And there's a buzz around language at the moment, Joe, and I think it's thanks to the government's new Language Connect strategy. Why has this become a national priority, do you think?
I think the fact that we're in a decade of commemorations, and Monday, for example, we're going to be commemorating the first Dáil sitting. I think 2016, commemorating the 1916 Rising, there was a shift in terms of people's appetite to find out more about the past. People who maybe went to school and maybe had a one-sided maybe appreciation of history. I think it opened so many doors and so many wonderful and gave so many wonderful insights into our past. So if you look at where we're at with our Irish language, our language is a descriptive language. It's not just a communication tool, and that descriptive nature of our language, it can take us back. And what happened, I think, in 2016, part and parcel of our commemoration of the 1916 Rising came with it the cultural elements, the language, I suppose the heritage as well, and people wanted to find out who we are and where we've come from. So if you look at any of the landscape, any of the regions, any of the townlands, we're so lucky that we still have the old place names, and people started asking questions about where they lived, more about the communities in the past. So I think it was a combination of stuff, and obviously government has to respond. Yes, government has to lead, but they also have to respond to the appetite coming from the people at large, and I think there was an enormous, and there still is an enormous appetite for the language and appreciation for the language as well.
Yes, and of course linked to that is our bilingualism, isn't it? And I think that through our bilingualism we will strengthen our connection to mainland Europe, where there is a policy of multilingualism.
Yeah, there is, and I know we have different types of relationships and history with our language, and people will talk about maybe negative experiences in learning it, but fundamentally for the people who can't even speak the Irish language, I think in general people have that wonderful understanding of the importance of protecting it. So there is a linguistic diversity approach to minority languages throughout the European Union. We're very fortunate that the Irish language is now an officially recognised European language. It was introduced in 2007, and in 2021 the derogation will be lifted, whereby we will be looking for interpreters, translators in Strasbourg and Brussels for people with 3 languages. So if you have Irish, if you're sitting now in secondary school and thinking 2021, if you have Irish, if you have English and a 3rd language, German, French, Portuguese or Spanish, you will be perfectly positioned for one of those very good jobs. And at the moment we're trying to put resources in place to ensure that we have enough people to put themselves forward for those posts.
Well, I'm delighted to see that, Joe, and you indeed have had your own personal challenge with learning a language. Would you like to share that with us now?
Yeah, I think ultimately I was handed a very difficult challenge back in 2014, but looking back, ultimately it was very much a privilege and an honour to be given an opportunity to go and learn to speak the language properly. And I was very fortunate, the county that I'm in, so many people can speak the language, and because of the public nature of my story, anybody with a bit of Irish, broken Irish, mediocre Irish, and obviously high standard of Irish, they were all talking to me in Irish, and it nearly became a full immersion project. And once I broke away from the fear around learning the language, the fear around making mistakes, and the fear around being judged, and I found this very much in Connemara and say the very, very strong Gaeltacht areas of Donegal, people weren't judging me. They were wishing me, they were giving me encouragement to go ahead, and I was asking for what different phrases, and they were correcting me as well in a very constructive way. And I remember being in Cork one day, and I was making a speech, and I was saying Machel score, and I was saying no, it's Machel skur, and little nuances like that. But one of the major opportunities was for me to fully immerse myself in the Irish language, and then I think in tandem with that it gave me a deeper understanding and a greater appreciation for our history, and it opened so many avenues for me. And what I would like to do is try to give the message to people. It's yes, if you want to learn German, it's difficult to learn Mandarin if you're going to different parts of China. But if you want to learn a language, just jump in, make mistakes. Anybody who's learning a language, if you're 2, 3, 4 years of age, you're making mistakes as you go along. Continue to make the mistakes, and eventually we'll get more comfortable rather than people measuring ourselves. Because I remember for so many years, people would ask me, can you speak Irish? And my automatic default position was Tabron Orm, me able to Lord Gaeilge. And that was the constant default. And when you think about what that means, Tabron Orm meant the sorrow was all over me that I couldn't speak my first language. And I think we have to get rid of those shackles, because even if people are able to say Tabron Orm, that's a great starting point. We know what that means and move forward from that. And the great inspiration is happening now in our classrooms. I was in school today in Letterkenny, Sculwarg and Small, and now they're teaching the language in very relevant and very practical ways. I was in a role play with a group of young people today. They were making tea for me. They were asking me to want some bread. Agus Aaron, agus Ruddy Marshin, agus vi Cora Dói. We had a great conversation. Agus vi siad some like bun saltas. They were enjoying it, learning the language, and it was very encouraging to see where the language is going.
Well, tá ahas mór orm anish. I am delighted, Joe, that you have shared this fulfilling journey with us now this evening, and I'm sure it will inspire many others to take on that challenge. Go raibh míle maith agat.
Go leanna bhaid, Tuna.